Okay, this is lesson 2.2 with rational numbers. Go ahead and put today's date. And to start off with, we're going to have our I can statement. So by the end of the lesson, we hope I can add, subtract, multiply, and divide rational numbers. Okay, we're going to start off with some vocab, and the very first one is opposites. Just kind of remind you, opposites are a pair of rational numbers in which one is positive and one is negative. I give you the example, -3 and 3. And a reminder from chapter 1 in our properties, a number and its opposites are additive inverses. A number and its opposite are added to the inverses. Now we're off to our rules. It says operations, so that means we're going to be adding, subtracting, multiplying, and dividing. So rules to add. When we're adding rational numbers, same signs mean we're going to have to add their absolute values, and the answer has their sign. So that means if I'm adding same sign, so try this again.
Coach Hagee reports to the main office. Coach Hagee reports to the main office.
Yeah. So a positive plus a positive will give us a positive because we're adding. So same signs mean it gets their sign. Same way if I add a negative plus a negative equals a negative. So when you're adding, whatever signs your numbers have is the one the answer gets. Now different signs. Different signs are when we have to subtract the lesser absolute value from the greater. The answer has the sign of the greater. Whenever it says the sign, we're going to have to go back to the original. There we go, that's a G. So the sign is the original one before we changed it. And because we are talking about rational numbers, it's not all going to be whole numbers and integers. We're going to have some fractions today. So let's go back. When we deal with fractions, so to add or subtract fractions, we have to get a common denominator. So we have to get the same denominator and then add or subtract the numerators, so the top numbers. And just a reminder, the answers, denominator is the same. Denominator is same. So if both the denominators are 5, then the answer's denominator are, the answer's denominator will be 5. So now let's move on to our examples. So example 1, we're given -11 plus -7. So same signs, they're both negative, so I know our answer is going to be negative. Then we say the absolute value of both of these. So the absolute value of -11 is 11. The absolute value of -7 is 7. So 11 plus 7 is 18. And because they were both originally negative, my answer is negative. Now for number 2, our second example, it says 7 over 16 plus a -3 over 8. So that should automatically stand out and say plus a negative will give you a minus. So 7 over 16 minus 3 over 8. Now these are fractions, so I have to get a common denominator. So I have to say 7 over 16 minus my 3 over 8. We have to look at our denominator. So 16 and 8. Now it's always easier if you look at the smaller one, like 8, and take an 8 going to 16 evenly. Yes, it can. So my 16 is going to be my common denominator. So fix both fractions to where the denominator is 16. Now, 7 over 16 didn't change because my denominator is still 16. And then we say, how many times can 8 go into 16? 2 times. And then we say 2 times 3 is 6. And now we just subtract. 7 minus 6 is 1 over, my denominator is the same, 16. All right, my very last one, number 3. It says 45 minus a negative 15. So minus a negative, we know turns to plus a positive. So it's 45 plus 15, which gives us 60. So that's adding and subtracting irrational numbers. Next, let's look at our rules for multiplying and dividing. And rules for multiplying and dividing are the same. So same signs are always positive, which means if I have a positive number times a positive number, my answer is going to be positive. Same way if I have a negative times a negative, my answer is still going to be positive, because when you're multiplying, same signs are always positive. Now for different signs are always negative. So if I have a plus or a positive number times a negative number, my answer is always going to be negative, and that also works vice versa. So same signs always positive, different signs always negative. The last bit we're going to look at is for our fractions. So when we multiply fractions, we multiply straight across. So that means we're going to multiply numerator with numerator, denominator with denominator. And lastly, when we divide our fractions. When we divide our fractions, we're first going to change our division symbol to multiplication. And then second, we're going to flip our second fraction. So change division to multiplication, flip the second fraction. And then for our third example, for our third step, we're just going to have multiply because we changed it now to a multiplication problem. And that says multiply. I know handwriting's horrible on this thing. Multiply. So here are examples. Example 1 for this set, we have 4 times negative 5. So different signs, 4 is positive, 5 is negative, so different signs are always negative. 4 times 5 is 20. All right, example 2, we have negative 6 times negative 7. So they're both negative, so my answer is going to be positive. 6 times 7 is 42. Okay, example 3 for this set, we have 2 fractions being multiplied. So remember, we have to first look at their signs. A negative and a positive means my answer is going to be negative. We multiply straight across. 3 times 5 is 15. Over 4 times 8 is 32. You want to check to see if it can reduce. So 15 over 32. 32's even, 15's odd, and they don't have any numbers in common, no common factors, so that's as far as we can go for number 3. Now, example 4, last one. We're given 2 1/2 times 6 over 15. They're both positive, so we know the answer is going to be positive, but we don't like mixed numbers. We need to get our mixed number as an improper fraction. So we're going to do that by multiplying our big number, 2, so 2 whole, times our denominator of 2. So 2 times 2 is 4. We have to say 4 plus our numerator of 1 gives us 5. Our denominator of 2 stays the same, times 6 over 15. Because now we're multiplying the fractions, we just multiply straight across. 5 times 6 is 30. Over, oh, it looks like 38. Let's fix that real quick. So 30 over 2 times 15 is 30. Now, 30 over 30 makes 1 whole. Or if you don't remember your fractions very well, you can remember that the fraction bar means to divide. 30 divided by 30 gives you 1 whole. Alright, this is it for this lesson. I know we went over the 4 operations. Tomorrow review. Please be ready for your note check. Thanks.